Hi everyone, thank you for joining me tonight. I will wait a few minutes before we start so I can see who is joining us tonight. Hopefully we'll have some domestic workers and team leaders and students from our community. Yeah, I see 3 people being there already. Hello, everyone. I hope you had a good day today. It was off here in Hong Kong. I know it wasn't in Singapore. So for those who didn't work, I hope you enjoyed your day. Hello. So, hello, Atala, Zakia. Good evening to you as well. So, Uplifters is a nonprofit organization dedicated to empowering underprivileged communities with online education and peer support. We offer a free online money management course for domestic workers. So you just need to click send message on our Facebook page to enroll. This is the 11th episode of our Facebook Live series, and we're very happy to be with you tonight. So the objective with these Facebook Lives is first to reply to your questions if we can, or collect them and consult with professionals afterwards so we can answer them later. Secondly, we just want to be there with you. Uplifter is first and foremost a community, and we will go through these difficult times with you. So, as I am sure you are, most of you are aware, we started this Facebook Live when we were right into this COVID-19 outbreak. In some countries, fortunately, Hong Kong is part of it. Situation gets better, but it's still quite challenging in Singapore and in other part of the world. So the more it goes, and the more we'll, open this Facebook Live so we can talk about topics that are not necessarily focusing on COVID-19 only. But I think tonight will still be useful for that. So for tonight, we're very, very happy to have Nerice, who is our special guest. She's one of Uplifter's advisor, and she's a certified executive coach and an online learning facilitator with international human rights experience. And she has a passion for supporting individuals so they can successfully combine life and work. So I will bring Nerice in with me now. Hi, Nerice.
Hello. Hi, Camille. Good to see you. Good evening, everyone. I'm really happy to be here, and I hope that I'll be able to share some of my knowledge, which will be useful to you. So thank you. And I'm looking forward to spending the next hour or so with you all.
Okay, thanks a lot for being there. So I see we already have quite a decent number of people watching us. Thank you everyone for being there. We have Jenaline here, Dina, Odi. Yeah, many people here. Good evening, Uplifters fam. I guess that's our family. This is great. Okay, so we'll maybe wait like for 1 minute so we have time to get everyone there. Hey, many people joining us tonight. It's very good to see. All right, so tonight the topic is quite, again, it's a broad topic. We'll be discussing about how sometimes we feel that controlling things that are happening to us can be difficult. It will be relevant in this COVID-19 context. I do hope that it will be relevant to other, situations. I really, really encourage you all to share what your questions are to Nerice and to myself. But even only your comments, if what we are talking about are things that you can relate to, just share your experience, and we'll be happy to adapt the messages that we want to convey to your specific situations. So I think the very first question that I would have for you, Neris, is actually, sometimes it's very difficult to determine what are the things that we can control and what are the things that we cannot control, especially now that we are all dealing with this uncertainty. So are there techniques that can help us make a distinction between the two? What is the most important thing to keep in mind to identify what we can control and what we cannot, or maybe what we should not?
Okay. Yeah, so I think when you start thinking about the different things you can control and the things that you cannot control, in reality, the only things that you can really control are to do things that are to do with yourself. So your mind, so how you respond to situations and your actions. So when a situation involves somebody else, so the behavior of somebody else, you already have no control over that. So the most you can have is influence. And then there is a whole range of things out there that you cannot control. For example, the weather, traffic, COVID-19 situation, the fact that we have a global pandemic. The list is endless. But I think sometimes we can spend so much time worrying about all these things that we really have no control over, that we don't spend enough time doing all the things that we can do and that we do have control over. So that, so we don't focus on the actions we can take to make ourselves feel better, because we're so busy dealing with the big things out there that can actually get us to feel quite helpless. And more upset, so you feel hurt, and it actually can lead you to feeling hurt, tired, exhausted, and then you don't have the energy left to take the actions that and do things that you have control over. So
it makes complete sense. It's at some point, I guess it's question of thinking about where you want to put your energy, right?
Yeah. Yes, that's a huge thing. Yeah.
So you mentioned like few things that we definitely cannot control, like traffic or what's the weather like on that specific day. Could you maybe give us like one or two examples of things that you can control, and also maybe go a bit further on, what does it really mean? What does it really feel?
Okay, so the things that we can control. Let's just say you've had a really busy day at work and you're exhausted, right? And you may have also had some encounters with your boss or with a friend even, something that was really upsetting to you. Now, you cannot go back in the past and change the situation. You cannot change what happened during the day. But what you can control, for example, let's say it's 10 o'clock at night and you're tired and you're upset. So you can spend the night just thinking about this and talking about the situation. Or you can think, okay, what can I do right now that will help calm myself down? Or what can I do physically to make myself feel better? So is it to have a shower, go and listen to music that I find relaxing and that puts me in a good mood, or meditate, do some stretches. Those are all those actions you can take that you to influence how you're feeling about the situation. Whereas, so you can't change the past, but often we find ourselves ruminating about that. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, it does. It definitely does. Even if sometimes we can feel it's easier said than done, but definitely there is something about letting go of things, and maybe also try to disconnect a bit from your thoughts. So your thoughts will anyway, whatever happened in your life, it will come, and you will have your mind being active and thinking about all these things. So practice as those that you just mentioned, like meditating, listening to some music, doing some things that you will feel good, can help you disconnect a bit with that, for sure.
Correct. And I think and these things take so much practice. I mean, it took myself, and I still can't fully control this, but so I still wake up in the middle of the night thinking about something and worrying about things. So the brain is very powerful, and we built up bad habits over years. So undoing them will take time. But I think that it's one of the things that people can do perhaps is to create like their toolkit of all these habits and practices that make you feel better. And it might you might feel too tired perhaps to think to even switch on meditation, in online meditation, or the mind is so far. So maybe have reminders in your space of positive things, or the things that help you feel better about yourself. So it's easy to access them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good thing. Again, it's always this thing of knowing what should be a good thing to do and actually being able to take action. So we move away a bit from those negative stuff, if we could call them that way.
Yeah.
I know that also it's sometimes easy to think about control strategies that we feel could help us cope with a situation that we don't feel comfortable with. But I know that sometimes control strategies can also be useless. Sometimes they can even be harmful when we want to control too much. And they can take a lot of our time, a lot of energy. Sometimes they will take money. They could also make us feel weak at the end when we realize that at the end of the day we cannot change things. Yet we've been spending all this time and energy and money and everything to control that specific thing. So is there a way we can move away from bad control strategies? And maybe if you have any examples of what we would call bad control strategy, in the sense that they will not work, but they might have you feel even worse than or not better, at least, than the situation you were in at the beginning. And I also encourage you who are watching us to just share if you can relate to that. Is there anything that you do when you want to control something that you feel will not change but you still want to control? What are these sometimes harmful control strategies?
Yeah. So control strategies can sometimes occur in the form of various addictions. So you may not be able to, you're in a bad situation, you're not happy with it, and you can't stop the mind thinking about it and feeling hurt. So you try to control and take away the power of the situation, perhaps by drinking and using that as a form of escaping, or gambling sometimes, or overeating, or undereating, or eating too little. So all these things that you can feel as if you have a sense of control. And I think, and I'm no expert whatsoever when it comes to dealing with addictions and things like that, that you need specialists for. But I think it's often we do these things, at lesser extent. So it's not really an addiction, but we do things to sort of help us numb or take away the feeling and the power of things that are upsetting to us. One of the big steps is to realize that this might be happening, and realize that, I'm drinking more than I should be doing, or the fact that I'm going out 3 times, all weekend if I can, and getting myself so drunk that I feel sick the next day over and over again. This might actually be not just because I enjoy it and I'm having fun, but it's because I'm trying to stop something from happening, and realize, being aware of the negative impact, because the next day you're feeling tired and exhausted and all of that. So yeah, it's really difficult though. I mean, this is the kind of thing that it's much more, much harder to sometimes do if you are trapped in a situation. But I think one of the things is if you find yourself that something is painful and you are try to think of things that you can do when you are feeling good about yourself or when you have an up moment, or focusing on a daily basis on the one thing or 2-3 things that you are grateful for or that are good in life. I know that this is covered in the Uplifters online course, those daily habits to help you focus and so that so you take much more control over your brain and your feelings and your actions.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's true that in one of the Uplifters online course, Dare to Dream, we do have these rituals that can help a lot, thinking positively. I think something that I've been trying myself is to, and I really support what you just said about the first step is to realize what they are. You can think about something that is upsetting you, that is bothering you maybe for a long time now, and try to list down all these things that you've been trying to get rid of that thing or thought. And then you list them down, and then you think about, okay, did that help me on the short term? Maybe yes. Did that help me on the long term? Maybe yes, maybe no. But at the end of the day, I did that, or I said that, or I thought that way because I wanted to get rid of this specific thing. Did it work? And then not only you realize, what is this thing that you're really trying to get away from, but then you realize that maybe 80% of the things that you've been trying to establish, to control, didn't work. And this is when you kind of start identifying what are the bad control strategies, because maybe some are okay, maybe some helps, and you might want to keep those. So I agree with you, Nerice. It's complicated to find what can be helpful and what is not, because sometimes what is helpful on the short term can be harmful on the long term. So it's a trick.
Correct. I mean, and one of the things that I think a lot of people, some of us do, and that might make us think that we're doing something about the situation, is talking about it. And I know that this is something that I myself used to do a lot, especially in certain work situations where I was working with a line manager or a colleague who wasn't particularly nice, and I would always have a trusted friend, or sometimes even my husband, where I would go home and talk about the situation over and over and endlessly, right? And somehow this would feel like a release, but actually, when I think about it now, all I was doing was sort of replaying the hurt over and over again, or replaying the frustration over and over again. But because this felt like a release to just talk about the same situation, I didn't necessarily think about, okay, what am I doing that's causing the situation, or what can I do differently? What actions can I actually take? Because sometimes we find people who will just agree with us and say, oh yeah, this is bad, yeah, that's correct, and so you get reassurance, and that can feel okay, but ultimately you're not necessarily doing anything about it to change that.
Yeah, it's a good example. And again, it's a tricky balance, and you're the only one to kind of assess whether it helps, whether it feels good or not. Definitely having someone to talk to, someone you trust. Again, I know that many of those who are watching us tonight do have this sense of belonging to a community, the domestic workers community, uplifters community, team leaders community, students community. This can definitely help. So I think it's a good thing. But again, it's a good example. Sometimes things that can be helpful for someone wouldn't necessarily be for another person, right?
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, I'll have a look a little bit at the comments that we got. It's a lot of good evening for the moment. We have 60 persons watching us. So I guess this means the topic is important to the community for sure. Hi, Camille and Nerice. Hello to all uplifters watching here from Singapore. So you do know, Nerice, that we have half of the community being based in Singapore.
Yeah. Yes.
Watching from Hong Kong. Good evening, Camille and Nerice. It's nice. Can watch you live broadcast.
Fantastic.
Watching from Hong Kong and from Hong Kong again. So again, do not hesitate to share as comment anything that you want to share. It can be about, one specific thing that you try to get away from, or one control strategy that you felt was useful, or maybe another one that you felt was not useful. We would be very happy to hear from you what you think of that topic and what is your experience of it.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So I'll move on with the next question, which is it can feel like the opposite of what a control strategy can be. What does acceptance really mean? How does it feel when we reach that state of mind?
What does acceptance really mean? I think that bit I can't think of the immediate words, but the state of mind I know is you feel calm. The state of mind you reach when you have fully accepted things as this eventually will lead to calmness. Acceptance is just being aware and knowing that it's knowing the difference between the things you can control and the things you cannot control, or knowing that you've done everything within your power to influence the situation, and being at peace with that. But as I said, mostly it's the state of mind which is calm, a sense of calm, a sense of release. And I think once we accept the things we cannot control, it can actually take such a huge burden of us as well, away from us. Because often, when we're trying to control things we cannot control, we carry so much responsibility, and we will never feel a sense of achievement or anything, because if it's out of our control, that's just the way it is.
Yeah. It feels like we all want to reach that state of mind, right? When you describe it. But I think that, like many other things, it does require a bit of practice. I know that sometimes when it comes to accepting things, again, back to those thoughts that we have in mind that are bothering us because we'd like to just be able to think about something else, maybe to think about something more positive. One technique can be to kind of observe what's happening in your mind. So when you have this thought coming, it's about just noticing it and thinking, how it's not like just the thought jumping on me. It's like I am having the thoughts that, for example, I'm not good enough, or I'm not going to be able to handle that specific task that my employer asked me to do the right way. So the thought is there, and you'll just accept it comes, and you will even like talk to it, saying like, oh, this thought is coming again. Or you can even use some kind of humor and think, oh, this is the I'm not good enough story coming back. They're trying to, convince me that I'm not good enough. And it feels very weird at the beginning, but if you practice that, if you really put yourself in that kind of observation posture, then slowly you will disconnect with that. So this is something you can try. Another thing that I'm doing is when I have a negative thoughts like harming, I will try to think it I will sing it in my mind. I will think about, a song that I like, and then the thought will be starting playing, and then it gives it takes out all the seriousness of it.
Right.
All of a sudden, it's just like that little music in your head that, okay, it's there, but, I'm choosing not to pay attention to. It's like
Mhm.
the radio, background
Sure.
sound.
Wow. Okay. Camille, if I may,
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah, do you have another comment? No?
No,
Oh,
no,
the
go
comment.
ahead, please.
Yeah, no, so I just want to make sure that I made this completely clear. So if I can talk about a specific example about where people think control, is this thing about your employer relationship or being working. And
Sure.
I've got a lot of personal experience of, finding myself working somewhere where at some point things didn't feel right anymore. And
Yeah.
one point where, and I was speaking with our domestic worker about this the other night, and she strongly agrees with this, is that, so for example, when you're coming for your first job to Hong Kong or Singapore, sometimes you may feel like you have no choice in terms of who your employer is, right? So, or you cannot,
Yeah.
you have no negotiating power, really. You're just going with it. This may or may not be true, but even, so you might feel this way, so I'm not going to dispute that. But once you're working and you've got work experience, so you're either here or in Singapore, and you're thinking, okay, actually, this working environment is not really working for me for whatever reason, so there may be an opportunity for you to terminate the contract after, I don't know, the number of years that it is in Singapore, if it's different than in Hong Kong. In Hong Kong, it's 2 years, right?
You can decide to break the contract, but then it will make it more complicated for you to find another one because of the visa process.
Yes, exactly. Yes, so this makes it a bit challenging. So I'm not saying to people just go break your contract, but what you can't control. So so you're working in a situation, you're not happy with it. What you can do is, what you have control over is how much effort you put into finding an alternative. So this may not necessarily transpire, but how much effort do you put into finding out what agencies are available? What do you tell your friends who perhaps may know somebody who might be interested in hiring a new domestic worker? All of these things. How much do you know about to what extent you're informed about your rights, to what extent you inform yourself about organizations that are out there to support you, to what extent you access the support that's available to you.
Exactly.
So there's so many different things that you can do that will help you to feel less helpless as well, other than just talking about the situation. So, there are the specific actions that you can take. And then if the situation presents itself where your employer terminates the contract because they're leaving, again, at this point, this is where you may have a little bit more negotiation power, or not power, some influence, right? So when you go into an interview, how well do you prepare yourself? If you find it scary and intimidating, do you try to practice with a friend? Do you think of the kind of things that are important for you to know from your employee's point of view? So, and this is, an example that one of the people I know shared with me was that at the interview, she said, okay, so what's the situation with food? For me, it's really important that I'm fed properly. And so at that point, you can ask that question. And it depends on how much effort you put in as well, in terms of maybe having another interview where you have the ability to negotiate at that stage. So realize the moments where you can change things.
Yeah, or just it's very true. And sometimes And I'm not minimizing how complicated it can be
No.
depending on situations, but like just trying to talk, like,
Right.
going into that communication with your employer or even your family, and just maybe after that things could be a bit better, but that
Correct.
step can feel sometimes really big to take.
Yes. Yeah, but you can practice it. I think this is what the point that I'm making, that if
Yeah,
you want to take action, you can and maybe you don't have a group of friends at the moment that will help you to practice things, but make sure you expand your network. So if you've got a group of friends that's not helping you with this kind of things and they just want to talk about party stuff, try to go to other places where you can meet different kinds of people who you can have
exactly.
serious
Yeah, yeah,
conversations with.
yeah, yeah. That's
So
a really good point.
yeah, so I hope that this makes it a little bit more concrete rather than sort of a philosophical think about your mind. This is their actual moments where you can find things that you have control over, and
Yeah,
action is really important.
thank you, Nerice. It helps. Thank you for that. I'm reading some of the comments, and I'm very happy to see that it is a topic um, that you like a lot. Many of you are telling us loving the topic tonight, so I think there is definitely something here. I'm glad that we decided to go with this one. We also have Odi, who's telling us that she works as a domestic helper, and her daughter can finish college. She changed her course in college 3 times, so it seems like a difficult situation. I'm trying to control things. I only want her to finish college, so I tried to control things, but it didn't help.
Yeah, yeah. No, yeah. And this, as a parent, I think can feel so hard and so difficult to accept. But unfortunately, sometimes we need to let people make their own, walk their own journey. And
Yeah,
and yes, and accepting. And so all you can do is say, talk to her, I guess, rather than control and say, do it, do it, do it. If you're physically not even with your daughter, or even if you were, all you can do is sort of explain to her why you think it's good and how it's making you feel, and that you're working in order for, so you can just share your point, but just saying you have to do it.
yeah,
I mean, and this is so familiar. I mean, in different contexts where people say, well, I've done everything in order for you to get these opportunities. And young people might turn around and say, well, I didn't ask you.
yeah, yeah. It's a tricky one
It's,
for sure. And I think the why is a very good thing to keep in mind. We had this exchanges with some of our team leaders a few days ago on communication, and it really comes to explaining why and the way we feel. So it makes the discussion a bit easier. I'm also going to share this comment from Jasmine Breeze. Very interesting topic. Thank you. Personally, if I have an issue, whether employment or personal, it's very important for me to speak it out to someone I trust. So very related to what we were saying.
yeah,
I feel better after. Then when I am calm, then I can focus on
yeah,
finding solutions to my issues.
that's great. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yes. So this was the point that I was trying to make as well. So I wasn't saying don't talk about it. It's important to talk. But I love the fact that you're saying, and then you can focus on finding
Yeah.
solutions. And that's the key.
Yeah,
That's
and that's the
exactly
key.
the key.
And this is when you know it was a helpful one, right? A
Correct.
helpful
Correct.
control strategy.
Yes.
Very well said, Nerice. So someone being very supporting of what you shared. We have a bigger comment here. Eden saying during the circuit breaker here in Singapore that we're not allowed to have a rest day, or even if we have, we need to stay in our room. So definitely this is a good example of something you
Yeah.
can't have any control over, right? For me, it's not easy because, as what you said earlier, we were exhausted, stressed, and restless.
Yeah.
One good thing I focus is through interacting with the students, sharing insights and opinion on the lessons. So Uplifters is a big factor for me.
Amazing.
It's one way to change my mindset rather than focus on the negative effects of COVID.
Fantastic again. This is but in your this point I was making about how we allow things to affect how we feel and our mind. And you clearly, by doing that and focusing on the positive and focusing on the students, you are taking control of your mind. You're using the control that you have over your mind and your feeling and making the most of it. So that's really good. And so it's an amazing example to see it's possible.
Yeah, thank you, Eden, for that sharing. And I'm happy to read that Uplifters helped during this very difficult time. Another one from Joanne. Hi, good evening. Acceptance in the employer-employee relationship. Open communication is very important. I believe this one is great key to a good relationship between the two parties.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. We come back to that very key topic of communication, at least trying.
Absolutely. Because this is the thing with communication, though, because it's a two-way thing. What you can control is your willingness to communicate openly. Unfortunately, sometimes the other party may not want to communicate. Be as open in the communication, but you can still. That doesn't mean you stop it. You stop communicating in the way that feels right for you, I think. And so that's the bit, that you don't allow somebody else's approach to you change how you approach the world. That can be very difficult because we can become reactive, right? But
it's true. So we have more comments saying the topic is very helpful and useful. What we will be doing is maybe posting the references of few books that we were just mentioning and talking about with Nerice before we started the live, as a comment of the Facebook post, so you can refer to that. Another one wonderful topic, watching from Singapore. The topic is very helpful. I do want to screen this one because I think this is important. So if I may, in regards to employer issues, if you want to break a contract or if your employer breaks the contract, if you're lucky, you may get transferred. Otherwise, some will just get without our knowledge.
Yeah, correct.
And I think this is a thing we cannot control over. So I just want to say that situations are a bit different depending on whether you're based in Singapore or Hong Kong. But during these difficult times, it is a true thing that it makes things even more challenging to be terminated or to break the contract. So this is something that we would, not advise to do in case there is a possibility to just stay in your contract for the moment.
Correct. Yeah. No, so the example, again, sorry, I just want to make it clear. The example I was giving earlier was more if it gets if your contract is terminated because your employer is moving, which I think might be happening a lot at the moment as well.
Oh, yes, for sure.
So then what you have a bit of control is how much effort you put into finding an alternative.
Exactly.
And that's up to you.
Yes, thank you, Nerice, for that clarification. I do agree with it.
Yeah, that's good.
I think we're watching the time, and I'm realizing we're already coming to the end. It went very, very fast, but I don't want to hold you too long, and I know that the community might be also tired. It's the end of the day. Maybe I'll ask you one more question, Nerice, and then there is this evening ritual that we'll be doing together, sharing our three little joys for the day. But before that, do you have any advice for domestic workers so they become better and focusing on what really matters to them? Like, is there one thing? If there was one thing that you'd like to share, what would that advice be?
Wow. Let's have a think about it. Focusing on what really matters to you. Gosh, I think that's quite big. I don't really have.
Yeah, or like if I can reformulate it,
Yeah.
it would be like, what would be the thing that you feel is the most useful when it comes to distinguishing what you can have control on or what you cannot? Where do you want you to put your efforts in?
Yeah.
What is that thing that can be helpful?
I think with everything, it's about what can I actually do about it. Focusing on action rather than focusing on action and this element of, is this situation that I'm in because of somebody else? Then I probably cannot control it. Is it a feeling? Is it something that is? So I cannot control it. So the most I'll be able to do is influence it, and amend my, take action and do something about how I feel about it.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think
yeah, it makes sense. Thanks a lot. I'll screen two last comments. One is from Nelly. I usually speak up to my employer if I know that there would be sometimes misunderstanding, to better communication with them, as I want it to be peace of mind and stay good relationship with them. Yeah. So again, it all depends on situations. Sometimes it will, be easier to speak up in some situations than other. But if you feel that you should or could, then it's very often worth trying it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And Jasmine is saying, in my current employer, during interview, I specifically told them that I'm not keen to look after dog. They said not planning to get one, so I've accepted the job. A month after joining them, they bought a dog. I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
I was disappointed and unhappy, but I cannot control their decision. I can only control my reaction. Yeah, that's a big
Correct. This
one.
is a really good example. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Instead of quitting, I've decided to accept the situation with an open mind. I've accepted it as part of my job and take it as a challenge. Yeah, that's a very good way of thinking positive.
Correct.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. So I think we're coming to an end. So before we end the broadcast, maybe we can do this evening ritual together. So this is something that we propose in Dare to Dream course. So, what are the three things that made you happy today, Nerice?
3 things. Wow, that's a lot.
So you can share one. Maybe
okay,
one.
Okay. Yes, they're quite. I probably can reach. One of them is. Just watching my daughter play and climbing on my husband's head, and that whole situation was quite funny. Being out, being in Saikung earlier today, and just being surrounded by beautiful nature. I'm feeling quite lucky to be able to be in an environment that's got so much beauty. And the third one is, I'm glad that this happened. I'm really, this is quite, and seeing that, as you say, I can't see how many people are signed in, but the comments and that it's been useful, that means a lot to me, because
Thank you. Well, I will start with my last one, because this is the same than yours. I'm very grateful that I was given this opportunity to facilitate this discussion. I kind of felt that it was an important topic, but I didn't expect so many people to join and share. So thank you again, Nerice, for sharing your tips and thoughts on that topic. Another thing that made me very happy today, which has nothing to do with the light, was also looking at my daughters, and exactly the same, actually, like enjoying the beauty of nature here in Hong Kong. I know that the situation in Singapore is still tricky, and it's still challenging to be out. But here in Hong Kong, it feels good to be able to go out again and to meet with people. So I was grateful for that. So I think this is the end. Thank you so much, Nerice. It was really, really helpful. We'll definitely stay in touch. We'll definitely look at the comments that you may have. Feel free to keep posting your comments, below the post, and we'll get back to them. I'm sorry if I didn't have time to read all of them during the live, and we'll try our best to answer them. And we'll share those references about the 2 books that we're reading now.
Absolutely.
Bye, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.